Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Tuesday, the 13th of February. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Joshua Barry. How's it going, Joshua?
Good, Derek. Good, you?
Yeah, absolutely sensational. Another day closer to Rangers returning to action. I can see you've got a new microphone there.
I do. Well, it's actually not new, Derek. I've been using it for the press conferences for a while, and then I suddenly thought this is a better one, so why am I not using it? So hopefully people can, if they want to hear me clearer, they can hear me clearer.
Yeah, absolutely superb stuff. Right, before we talk all things Rangers, folks, just a quick word for our podcast sponsors, the MPH Group. If you're looking for home improvements or even a new boiler, these are the guys to call. The all-important links are in the description below. Of course, one day away, as we mentioned, Ross County coming up at Ibrox on Wednesday night. An opportunity for Rangers to go top of the league, which is quite incredible. And credit must go to Philippe Clement for turning around Rangers' season. There is no doubt about it. Speaking of Clement, former Rangers hero John Brown has been speaking yesterday. He was at Ibrox. And he spoke really well. He was at a promotional event for the Rangers Youth Development Company and the Union Jackpot halftime draw product. So he was there and he was discussing Clement and he made a comparison with the great Graham Souness and Walter Smith. I'll read you what he said, folks. It's quite interesting. He says, the important thing is to win the game on Wednesday. If we go top, I don't think it will have an impact on what he is doing. I think Clement is just taking it a game at a time and is looking to win each game. Looking back at my own experiences with various managers, it was always about the next game, not the third game or waiting until the Old Firm game came up. But there is no point in that. You have to deal with your next game. I think he's putting that point over to the players. Can I tell you one thing that Graham Souness once said to me? He said, I pick the team. The only person you need to worry about is me, not the fans. You have to keep me happy to stay in the team. That is what Philippe is putting over to his players. They have to do as he is demanding, or they will not be in the side. And every player is reacting to that. So the team's priority is to win the game. The manager will not be putting big demands on how many goals they get. It would be great to go top. We are in a good vein of form, but I don't think that is a priority for the manager. It is great because he is keeping the players' feet on the ground. Added Walter and Graham had that. Walter's man management skills were great, but if you got on the wrong side of him, Graham had that as well. Look back at the players he moved out. International players' reputation meant nothing to him. It was all about the football club. I think Philippe has come in and won the respect of the dressing room by how he is putting his points over to the team. You can see the players are enjoying it. You can see the effort since he's come in the performances. I think the players suss out managers, figure out if they're up to the task or not. That is the reaction you're seeing from the squad to the present manager. Everything is low-key. He just gets his points over and he is not looking too far ahead. It is just the next game. That is all you can do. I think the squad of players looking at the manager and they are winning at football matches. They are coming in on a Monday morning. They're enjoying the content of the training. It's all geared towards winning the next game. The players are thriving. I love coming in on a Monday morning because you knew you were coming into a quality manager, whether that was Graham or Walter. And he continued, the content of the training was competitive every day. We had a lot of international players and the competitive edge was there even in small-sided games. We still wanted to win from Monday to Friday. You set the tone for how you played on the Saturday with how you trained. I think this manager is the same. He's got that across to the players that he will demand a lot through the week in training to take into games. So there you go, folks. You can read that piece in full over on the Rangers Review website. Nice words from Bomber. Always enjoy listening to what he has to say. And it's a fair point. I think I liked it, the point where he says it has been low-key, and Philippe Clement has been at pains to stress that at times in his press conferences. Joshua, I liked when he was asked about it after the game at the weekend. He says it's asked about the prospect of a potential treble. He says that's for fans to dream, but not for him and the players. Are just focusing on the next game. And that is why I think Rangers have got this opportunity tomorrow night to go top of the division.
Yeah, and Connor Goldson actually said something interesting, Derek, which I'm going to get up as well, and I'll read that out in a second. But when you spoke to people about the appointment of Philippe Clement, and obviously, as you say, even if Rangers were to go top, I think Clement said a couple of weeks ago, it doesn't matter where you are on the table in February, it matters where you are come May, obviously. But no one can deny that the job that he's done has been fantastic today. It's also important to recognise that, Derek, because had he made one slip or lost one game, or I don't know, said something in the media, or had something started early on, then I think this season would have been done. And now obviously the 7-point gap has been made up, and or can be made up again tomorrow, and Rangers are in a really good position. And if you spoke to people who were in the know, involved in the negotiations to bring Clement to the club, one thing that stood out to me, I think it was in something that Chris wrote as well, one of the apparently most impressive parts of Clement's interview, when he was asked about which of his achievements was the most impressive in his managerial career or the most important to him, he said it was winning the second title with Club Bruges, because not only did it show that he could, win a title in the first place, Derek, but he showed that he could go and win it again. I do think that sometimes we're guilty in football of harking back too much and thinking, okay, this worked then, so it must work now. And sometimes managers, the style of managers can come into that. But you would say that managing Rangers, you do need you need to be a figurehead. You need to have real authority to make it work. You only have to look at who's been successful for that theory to be backed up. And so far, I think Clement has done that quite obviously. And if I just get up what Connor Goldson said, if I can find it, he said, let me see if I can find it. I might need to come back to you. But he spoke effectively about the manager, little simple things, and I think this has come out quite consistently since Clement came into the club, whether it be John Lundstrom in the mix zone after, I think it was the League Cup semi-final, whether it be Goldson speaking to us out in La Manga, James Tavernier as well. There seems to be, I think, because Clement has experience, he's experienced of going into clubs mid-season, real intentionality within his man management as well. I think that has allowed him to start so well. And yes, Derek, Rangers could, we don't know what's going to happen between now and the end of the season, but based on the first 4 to 5 months, I think you need to start recognising that it looks like, one, Rangers really do have the right manager in place, and two, for the first time in a long time, you can start to say, do you know what, I think there is not by no means a guarantee, because football doesn't work like that, but you'd be pretty assured that if Clement stays and he's backed and certain things go his way, that he can be a success here. And again, I don't think that's happened for a long time, the type of synergy between the fans and on the pitch. I think it's, again, not since the European run that happened, and obviously before that the title winning season, but there's no fans in there. So it does feel as if Clement has managed to, what he spoke about at that first press conference, Derek, which was pretty unassuming, because maybe unassuming is unfair, but what I mean by that is that the previous 2 appointments had been, obviously Gio was a real, I think everyone thought, okay, that's the right manager, and Beale, it was pretty obvious from the start he was going to be the one to come back. This was totally new, it was totally fresh. Not many people had much experience of watching a Philippe Clement team, but he has started brilliantly, and I think that the parallels between leadership and how important that is at a club like Rangers are pretty pertinent when you consider, why he's been able to hit the ground running. And let's not forget non-ideal circumstances, Derek, because I remember us speaking after that Aris Limassol game away from home. Aris probably a better team than people gave them credit for, but Rangers' performance on that night, they felt a long way away from putting anything together in this season.
Yeah, it's quite incredible, the turnaround. A few comments coming in just off the back of that piece there. Denzel with an interesting point says, men like Walter and Dick Advocat were time-served coaches and managers like Clement. Not only that, they were experienced in life. I hope the days of employing project managers are over. And Broxy loves the Rangers review. Of course he does, says Phil seems to have it all solid tactically, good with the media, clear with his ideas, not afraid to take players off if needed, and great with people, man management, what we have needed for years. Yeah, absolutely. I cannot disagree with any of that. And if Rangers, should they win by more than 2 goals, clear goals tomorrow night, they will be outright top of the division on goal difference, which could be huge. He did discuss this yesterday as well, John Brown, Joshua. I'm trying to hark back to the last time goal difference played such a big part in the title race. I'm thinking the Helicopter Sunday, the original Helicopter Sunday, when Rangers, it was a shootout, Rangers against Dunfermline at Ibrox, and Celtic were away to Kilmarnock, where it was a straight blown out who's going to score most goals. And how important do you think goals could be this season. I do expect it to go all the way down to the wire from here on in. If it goes to the final day, it could be massive.
Yeah, what is it? 15 games Rangers have remaining. So I think there's still the Aberdeen game. I think felt big last week. Asked Connor Goldman about how do you assess the start to 2024? You've been, as we said yesterday, part of some teams after the winter break who maybe haven't started so emphatically in the new year, and he just said it has been perfect. And you consider, Derek, moments like St Mirren away, where Rangers concede. They had that late, Gogic had that late chance, and I think John Suter makes a fantastic block. And then I can't remember who it was, but someone at the back post for St Mirren hit the crossbar. The Hibs game, they negotiated that pretty easily. But in the Aberdeen game, the type of game where I feel like in the past we've seen that with iterations of the squad where they're good and they're maybe on top, but then they have a bit of a sucker punch, and it's how do you reset? And I remember when I know I'm going off course here, but I remember the Rangers 3, Braga 1, where Kemar Roof scored the winner.
Yes.
And I remember back then thinking that, that's one of the first times I can remember in recent years that this squad have really recovered well at Ibrox, because during a game, I always remember the Malmo game when Rangers, had an extra man, but you just never felt there was a belief that they were going to be able to do that. And I think belief plays such a big part. Again, going back to the Hearts game where Rangers looked like they were going to lose 1-0. I think the obituaries for this squad had been totally written. It was Clement's, what was that, his third game? It was after the Sparta Prague away game, maybe his fourth game. But if you win late once, then you can win late again. And it really feeds into that belief that, okay, we've conceded this goal before halftime. Yes, it's going to be difficult to break down this Aberdeen team, and Kilris was having a good game in goals. But I think it is those small margins that can carry you forward in a title race as well. So I still think Rangers need to do it over a few more weeks to continue to build that belief that they are going to take it right down to the wire. You hope that the January recruitment so far looks promising, and obviously the intention is to try and have resale value with these players, but they're always going to have to come in, Derek, and make an impact just now. So you've watched more title races than me, so I'm interested to see what you think. But it does feel like I think belief is such a big factor, and that's why Tuesday was it against Aberdeen, felt so significant being there. Even the fact that they played "I'm Feeling It" after the game, which it might be to the outsider might seem like a small thing, but if you've been at Ibrox over the last few years, you know that song is normally only rolled out when there's something to celebrate, when there's a feeling that everyone there kind of wants to prolong, and it did have that type of feeling about it. So I think belief is really important in a title race, and it feels like at the moment something that Rangers didn't have at all when Clement came in. They do now have a lot more, which is the fans, I think, trust the players more. Yes, I think the key thing is the Old Firm game. I feel we come back to this every week, but because Rangers have not won that meaningful fixture in so long, that will be held against them until they do. But in terms of the other tools you need to win a title race, picking up points in difficult areas, away from home, doing it with limited squad resources, doing it at Ibrox and using Ibrox to your advantage, I think all those are being ticked off at the moment.
Yeah, some tasty fixtures coming up. Every game is absolutely huge at this moment in time, because we do have a title race, and it is back on not only tomorrow. We go to Perth on Sunday to take on St Johnstone at 12 o'clock kickoff. Hate those early kickoffs, I've got to say. Rangers then host Hearts at home on Saturday, the 24th of February, before travelling to Rugby Park on the 28th. So hopefully redemption from that opening day defeat down there in Ayrshire, and then Rangers host Motherwell before that Scottish Cup quarter-final away to Hibs on the weekend of the 9th and 10th of March. So games coming thick and fast. Some on paper difficult matches, you've got to say, but this Rangers team under Philippe Clement is a different animal, which leads me on to this this comment that caught my eye from Bonnebear. Says, can you imagine where we'd be if Phil was in at the start of the season? All ifs and buts, of course, Joshua. It's a hard one to where would Rangers be? I'd imagine they would have been, I'm not going to say well clear, but have a lead at the top.
How many games of the first 8 did they lose? Was it 3 games? Aberdeen, Kilmarnock, and obviously the Old Firm game.
Yes.
I think, again, on the topic of belief, that it was the week where Rangers went away to PSV and they're quite good this season, aren't they? And they kind of caught them on a bad day, and weren't very good, and then lost at Old Firm at home. And that just, I mean, if you're talking about a game to crush belief, because that people felt that the start of the season, after all the recruitment of the summer, they felt it was going to be a bit of a moment for Rangers to I don't know, step up and do something. So the belief was so crushed at that moment, wasn't it? Where would the Rangers be if Clement was there from the start of the season? I agree with you, Derek. I mean, it's hard not to say they'd be better, because he's not done much wrong, if at all much wrong so far. Again, I think he's acted like an experienced manager who's won league titles before, and who's worked at a higher level. He's worked in the top 5 leagues as a manager as well. So I'd probably be in agreement with you. It's easy to speak in hypotheticals, isn't it? But I think Rangers now, although they're changing their squad a lot, they have a very settled idea of how they're going to play, and I think that's quite apparent week to week, because and players speak about that as well when they're coming in. They all know their roles, etc., etc. There was just so much change, I think, at the start of the season that translated onto the pitch as well. And it wasn't cohesive, was it? Which obviously led to those 3 defeats. And then even when Rangers did win that Motherwell game, the 1-0 win, there wasn't many good days between August and September, was there?
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what would have happened if you had a pre-season. Think about that PSV game. Perhaps I think they would have put up a better fight over there in Eindhoven. But he's worked wonders in Europe, and also got the League Cup back in the Ibrox Trophy cabinet for after such a long absence, and he's certainly working wonders in the league as well. Let's focus on some of the points that come in. Hugo Bear says that Ross County still managerless. They've got Don Cowie in charge.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I seen a little interview with him yesterday. He says that the club are not actively looking for a replacement for Derek Adams. So Don Cowie has been given the managerial reins from now, at least until the end of the season. So whether he gets a new manager bounce, it remains to be seen. I know it was not a welcome return for Derek Adams at Ross County. I found found some of his interviews rather amusing, I've got to say. I do enjoy listening to Derek Adams. He is pretty honest, but maybe too honest at times, and that move never quite worked out. But in Don Cowie, he knows what he's doing. I expect Ross County to be well organised on Wednesday, Joshua. It's up to Rangers to break them down. I don't expect it to be an expansive, wide-open game, but you're looking at the likes of Cortez, you're looking at Fabio Silva, I'd imagine, that will play at some point as well. They are creative players to try and find spaces in behind.
Yeah, well, I think, for example, you'll see Ayr be less... Ross County be a little bit less adventurous than Ayr were. I think Ayr actually, to their credit, tried to play out and committed a fair number of players forward. Ross County, obviously, even when they had Derek Adams, who didn't have, as you say, not the best 79-day spell you'll ever see in charge of a football club. But they still were very close to taking a point at Parkhead. 2 weeks ago, I think they hit the bar. Good couple of late chances. I imagine it wouldn't be all that. It would resemble a lot of games that Rangers have to play at Ibrox, not to be cliche, but where it is about them obviously trying to create space and create chances. I think it'll probably be Dethers that comes in. I know we're going to speak about the number 9 discussion before we close on the back of something a piece Chris has done on the website today. Imagine it'll be Dessers that comes in, McCausland back on the right. Would like to see Cortez staying there, to be honest, Derek. Definitely get Cantwell back in that number 10 slot. You'd imagine that Lundstrom comes back in. I think it'll be Tom Lawrence that comes back in next to Lundstrom as well. Ridvan back in the defence. So expect there to maybe be 6 or 7 changes, but more of Rangers did make a lot of changes for that Ayr game at the weekend. But yeah, the pressure will be more on them to go and score goals compared to the Aberdeen game last week, because of the nature of the game. It is the important thing, obviously, is, again, to be cliche, but the important thing first is that they go and win the game, keep this good run going, because the St Johnstone game at 12 o'clock kickoff, as we said yesterday, I feel like they never play well there, even though the
just
heavy favourites.
That time as well.
That time. And then Kilmarnock is as a feel of a big one.
Yeah.
Not least because Celtic have lost there and Rangers lost out at the start of the season. I think it's a midweek game as well, isn't it? It's a Wednesday night. So I'm sure that's the big one that people within Rangers will be bookmarking as another game like that Aberdeen one, where they feel like if they win that can really generate the belief that's already there at the moment.
Yes, World's Greatest GD quite rightly says cup finals all the way from now on. Absolutely. Some interesting points that caught my eye in the comments. This one, the manager touched on, he was irked when he was asked about this. I think last month, I think it was after the transfer window closed or just before. He says, William says, when will Lowry be fit enough for squad inclusion? He's out injured, of course, at this moment in time. We never got an exact idea what the injury itself is, but he is out for some period of time. Not career-threatening, as Philippe Clement said, but it is out for some time that will prevent him from going out on loan again, which was Rangers' intention when he returned from Hearts. And he says it's going to be difficult for him now because Rangers are stacked with players in his position. He is hoping to make an assessment on Lowry in the summer, but he did say he did admit it's going to be difficult because he hasn't played much games. I don't. Will we see Alex Lowry feature for the first team before the close of the season, Joshua? I'm not entirely sure we will.
I'd be surprised because it's a difficult time of the year to bring someone in who, although Lowry's been around for a few years, he's obviously not played under Clement. Clement doesn't like to put time limits on injuries to really reveal much information. When he's been pressed on that before, he'll say that he wants players to have their privacy as well. I quite like that, to be honest, Derek, because I think if you're a player, sometimes you might not want the outside world to know exactly what your injury is or have that pressure and the noise of when players are going to be back. I don't think you've ever seen Clement say, apart from Sima, and I think that was because he was the news was better than he expected. I don't think you've ever really seen Clement say, yeah, he'll be back in 2 weeks, or the famous 7 to 8 to 10 days away. He's not. That was the Mark Warburton with, was it Jordan Roster was always 8 to 10 days away.
Yeah.
So you've not seen Clement. You've not seen good days. Yeah, you've not seen Clement do that. So Lowry, I think the summer's the big one for him. We've obviously spoke about it in the past, Derek, but I'd be very surprised if that happens between now and the end of the season, not least because it looks like, Cantwell, I know we're going to speak about him later on a separate video. I think he's getting back to his best, and you've got Diomande in there and Lawrence. I think Lawrence might actually play deeper quite a lot at home games at Ibrox. I think you'll see Diomande playing that number 10 slot as well. He was speaking after the game at the weekend, and he explained he can effectively play in any midfield position. So I think those two will be the ones who share that number 10 spot. And then with Lowry and Hadji coming back from loan in the summer as well, then it'll be interesting to see if Clement has second thoughts about who add some competition in there, and if Sam Lammers is in great form in the Eredivisie, I don't expect him to come back. But it's an area of the squad that is going to be really busy again come the summer.
Yeah, incidentally, on Jordan Roster, currently at Bristol Rovers, and shock horror, he's injured until the end of the season. He's not expected to feature. So, it just didn't quite work out for him. It's very unfortunate because he has all the talent. But like many players that have walked through the doors at Ibrox in recent years, he has been injured more often than not. Right, let's talk about Chris's brilliant piece on the website, Joshua. A fantastic read, folks. The link is in the description below the video, so do go and check it out. He's spoken to two strikers, incidentally, that played as a number 9 under Philippe Clement. Of course, it has been the main topic of discussion, certainly up until the closure of the transfer window, and whether Rangers are a bit light in that department. He's spoken to a player, hopefully I pronounced this right, Isaac Kiese-Thelin, who played at his first club at Waslan Beveren. So he's spoken very highly of working with Clement. He says that I enjoyed working with him a lot. He's a great coach. As a striker, he gave me freedom to move around the pitch and the box and to find my free spaces. He was not so strict about how I needed to run. He always pushed me, always telling me to be ready for a chance, but whether it was in the first minute or the last minute, he gave me a lot of confidence. Chris also spoke to a player you may remember, folks, when Rangers played Union Saint-Gilloise in that Champions League qualifier, Dante Venzier, who's now starring in the MLS for New York Red Bulls. He also spoke highly of Clement during his time over in Belgium when he played for him at Genk, I believe it was. So he says he likes to be very short in training, very on it. His practice makes perfect. He analyses how you perform in training, how you train and the results on the pitch. For me, even not playing every game, I learned a lot from working under him and just training with the team. He played a 4-3-3 formation. Later on, I learned that it was not my best formation, that I like to play with a second striker around me. But he says in that time, it helped me understand how to play in those kinds of systems and to be a little bit different of a striker, more playing between the lines, more involved in the game. There's lots impacting that brilliant piece. I do urge you to check it out, folks. But it sort of mirrors what Fabio Silva was saying after the game at the weekend. Joshua saying he's got that freedom. He's enjoying his football. And it was intriguing to find out some of these strikers that have played under Philippe Clement and what he's obviously hoping that Cyril Dessers and Fabio Silva produce for him.
Yeah, and I think since Clement came into the club, Derek, there's probably not a single player he's got. Lammers is probably the exception of a player who's not been able to get the best out of, or get a lot better out of. Even you look at, I know, Rabbi Matondo still frustrates, but he's had a couple of important interventions in terms of goals and assists at the start of 2024. You look right across the pitch. Obviously, Dessers is the main example, but Lundstrom as well. I think now we're really starting to see a better version of Todd Cantwell too, and. The number 9 was the biggest talking point of the window, Derek, because as Chris outlines in his piece, I don't think it's as simple as if Rangers were to sign one more number 9, they win the league, and if they don't, they won't. I think there's a bit more nuance to that, and the fact that how much money can they spend in January, which is, I know people don't like to hear, it's a difficult window to negotiate in, but it is. You look at the little money that was spent down south in the Premier League this January alone as evidence of that. And the fact that Clement really wanted Fabio Silva in at the club. Niels Coppin didn't start until officially in his role as Rangers Director of Football Recruitment until early January, but this was a deal that he kind of spearheaded and Clement was very on board with as well. And again, we're told by sources on both sides of it that the conversations that Silva had with Clement were really fundamental in him choosing to come to Ibrox as well, because he had other opportunities to go and play around Europe. He had that good loan spell at Anderlecht and PSV last season as well, where he played off the left. So as we continually come back to, will Rangers have the sufficient firepower to win a league title? I think this has been a good week for it, because you've had Cortez, he looks bright. It looks like he's going to be able to start impacting games quite quickly. You need Todd Cantwell to be a big player, I think, if you're going to win the league, and it looks like he's in a better shape to do that this year. Dessers, obviously, we've seen his purple patch over the kind of last month or so, Derek, and you hope that he can continue that. I think he'll start tomorrow, and then you're relying on getting goals here or there from other positions. But I think what this piece touches upon a lot is what Fabio Silva has spoken about in terms of dynamic movement, in terms of getting involved in the play and not only being high and getting on the end of moves. But then in contrast, I think that's more what Cyril Dessers does in his game. Yeah, at moments he'll drop off, but that's not really natural. I think the goal he scored against St Mirren is the exact type of goal that he wants to score as a striker, which is you're not running onto it, a ball 50 yards behind a defensive line, because I don't think he's got the pace for that, but it relies on his movement. It relies on him being clever with his movement to get free and then finishing within 3 or 4 touches of getting the ball. So Clement, as he said over the last couple of weeks, believes he has 2 different number 9s who are scoring goals at the moment. We'll obviously see between now and the end of the season whether they have the sufficient goal power to what I would say realise the potential of the season that this season has for Rangers. But I think Chris's piece does a really good job of illustrating a little bit more what Clement wants from that position based on people who have actually, firsthand done that role for him. It's the type of piece we love to do, because hopefully it brings some more context to one of the debates, the predominant debates that have been surrounding the Rangers discourse over the last month or so. So subscribe if you've not done so already, and loads of pieces come like that every month to hopefully give you a little bit more context to some of these big talking points.
Yep, Tenzo the point just on Union Saint-Gilloise says, who can forget Derek's tour of the USG ground? Yeah, those were the days. Did enjoy that. Of course, Rangers never played there because it never met UEFA standards, but a real old-fashioned ground. That was a good day over there in Brussels, that's for sure. Not a good evening, however, as Rangers were defeated 2-0, but they rectified the situation at Ibrox. But a decent team, of course. Played Liverpool last season, didn't they? In fact, was it this season they played? Was it last season?
Yeah, it was this season in the Europa League, because it was the two brothers, wasn't it? The McAllister brothers played one another.
Yeah, so a decent side out there. So yeah, that was it. Very enjoyable. Hopefully, we'll get to do that whenever the Rangers, whenever the draw takes place, and we'll find out who Rangers will play in the last 16 of the Europa League. Cannot wait for that. But, of course, we've got a few games to take care of before that, starting off tomorrow night. It is press conference day today, folks. We will hear from Philippe Clement. We'll have our usual content to come from there. We'll have a press conference reaction video for our YouTube members. We'll also mentioned earlier when I was on the Q&A about our Todd Cantwell video, that we'll aim to record that a little bit later on today. Just work getting in the way, but that lots to come on the YouTube channel. As Joshua said, there's plenty on the Rangers Review website as well. So plenty to keep you entertained over the next day or two. But we'll wrap up there for now. Thanks to everyone for interacting with the show. It's hugely appreciated. We'll speak to you a little later on. If we don't speak to you, enjoy your Tuesday, and we'll speak to you tomorrow morning. Bye for now.